And we're live.
Let's do it.
Seth, welcome to the Mason J Show. I greatly appreciate you making time to come on the podcast. You're someone that I've been wanting to chat with for quite some time since I worked with SOS back in Chicago, and you were, a name that was just kind of floating in the upper tiers of SOS. And so it's great to put a face to the name, and I know we skied a little bit this winter as well. So welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Mason, and really excited to be here, excited to talk about, where we are as an organization and any other questions. I'm open.
Absolutely.
Love it.
Let's get right into it. So a big reason why I'm attracted to what SOS is doing, and, I've really been happy to see the progress that you guys have been made. I know that your organization has been around for 28 years, is it?
29.
29.
30 years next year.
That's awesome. And then you've been with the organization for, is it 15 or 16?
I think 16 at this point.
It's a long time to be at the helm.
It's a long time. So I've been executive director now for 6 years. And so it's been quite a road on my end of being in nearly every position that exists in the organization.
Absolute
and
expert.
Then working up to executive director. I stepped in when our founding executive director moved on.
Nice.
And I often say that I have the best job in the world. At least it's the best job for me.
Well, congratulations on making it up that ladder and getting to the position where you are. I know, like me and my place in life, and I think a lot of the people that listen to my podcast as well are trying to find their way through their passions and working through, employment. So that's part of the reason why I wanted to have you on, to highlight somebody who has really made their passions and their employment mesh into one like cohesive, activity. So that's awesome to see. And so you grew up in Pennsylvania, is that right?
Uh-huh. Yeah, Pittsburg.
Pittsburg, and went to Carnegie Mellon for grad school. And then where were you for undergrad?
Undergrad, liberal arts school, north of the city, about an hour and a half, Allegheny College.
Nice. East Coast.
Love it. East Coast. So we were all, that my mom was born and raised in Pittsburgh. My parents met on her college campus just outside, about an hour away from the city. And then they moved back to Pittsburgh in the neighborhood that she lived in. And they were in the same house for 34 years. And 10 years ago they moved, but they only moved about 5 minutes away. So that's home.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, did you grow up going to like Seven Springs and Liberty as well?
Seven Springs, Hidden Valley, Boyce was the local community hill.
Awesome.
Blue Knob was if we went far, and then if like the really far trips were Killington or Whiteface.
Killington.
And every time Snowshoe mixed in there.
Yeah, I've been wanting to get up to the Northeast that side. I did one trip up there where I did Attitash and Cannon. And really enjoyed both of those. Those are in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed that terrain. So much different than out here, or even versus, the PA hills. Just like long rolling, pretty icy, but long rolling, like highway type runs that I really enjoyed while I was out there. It's just like so cool how diverse our country is with the access to hills in different regions.
No, it's a very different experience. And what sold me on moving out west was it came to Steamboat junior year of college. And it was just an amazing experience and came. And
when did you get into skiing and snowboarding? Because you ski, right?
Yep, skied. So my dad picked it up when I was in elementary school, and he had done it a little bit in college, but he got back into it when I was in elementary school, and it just became a thing that we did together. And then I really got into it in middle school. There was a ski club at the school. Teachers, this was the East Coast Ski Club, like school bus drove you up to the mountain, and you'd unload and ski for 2 hours at night, and more often than not you were cold because you were in jeans and maybe a jacket, but we started skiing with the club that would go after school. And then it was really cool, and this is kind of the trajectory that I ended up on. So in high school, my best friend and we started running our high school ski club.
Fun.
And it was all about, so we had a whole structure set up. And it's interesting, like I didn't connect this until a few years ago, but we were in essence doing SOS without even knowing SOS, because we were creating opportunities. I mean, if any kids wanted to come, we'd figure out how to get gear for them so that they could get on the buses and come up with us. And we just charged exactly what it cost, and that was it. so that it was as low cost as possible, and we negotiated ticket deals and everything.
That's awesome.
So that we took kids up to Seven Springs.
And this is while you were like high school age,
In high school,
trying to
so this was
facilitate
9th
all
through
that.
12th grade.
That's awesome.
We had 4 buses that would go 5 Fridays, and then it switched to Thursdays.
Wow.
Yeah.
So from the beginning, you were
From the beginning. I'm in it.
That's awesome. I remember my high school we did one trip. We went to Montage Mountain, that I have never found again. I know it's out in Pennsylvania somewhere, but that was my first time going there. And it was a fantastic trip and a great way for like all of the high school like community that we had and friends to like go out and enjoy this awesome activity. And I wish that my high school had done a little more, but it's such like a unique and impactful activity to be able to share with your friends, especially at that age when no one's really like great. So everyone's just kind of out having a, messy time, falling all over the place and just going through the learning process. And then I did trips outside of school with friends, like driving up to Liberty. I remember one of the times I had a Dodge Dakota at the time and drove up and it completely broke down at Liberty and had to call my parents to come and like pick us up, drive us back, and then tow us or drive back to Liberty the next day to tow my truck back. And so fun memories, at the PA Hills.
Yep.
And then, so when did you transfer, living, how did that whole move go from Pennsylvania to coming out here? Hey guys, going to take a quick break from the episode just to highlight a sponsor of this season of the Mason J Show. And today we have Spencer Bangert, a loan officer with Fidelity Direct Mortgage, here to offer the listeners of my podcast some free knowledge and education on the home buying process, and hopefully to be your loan officer when it comes to your new home purchase or refinance of the current home you have. Spencer has been in the mortgage industry for over 8 years and run through the home buying process thousands and thousands of times, and that means that he is an absolute expert and will catch the little details that turn into big problems down the road. Spencer is offering a free consultation to any of my listeners to go over your credit and your home buying eligibility to see if you qualify for the home or refinance that you're looking for. All you have to do is send an email to spencer@fdmhome.com, reference the podcast, and that you're there for your consultation. Spencer is somebody that I absolutely trust because I've seen him work firsthand, and I wouldn't put a sponsor on the episode if it wasn't somebody or something that I think would really help you guys out. And I actually mean that. Thank you guys so much. Back to the episode. Spencer's NMLS ID is 1202142, and Fidelity Direct Mortgage's number is 188829. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. So, again, Pittsburgh's roots, Pittsburgh's family. I had a job opportunity at Carnegie Mellon in student affairs, so working in student services. And I started while I was in my final semester of grad school.
Cool.
And 2 weeks into the job, I called my girlfriend at the time, now wife, who was moving from Cincinnati to Pittsburgh. And I said, I can't do this. And she said, what do you mean? I already quit my job. Well, the housing they gave me at Carnegie Mellon was 3 blocks from my high school and 4 from my middle school. And I really saw what my life was going to be. It was going to be a really good life. And I'd challenged myself significantly in academics and in career to this point. I had done a couple of fellowships, but I really hadn't pushed myself personally. Undergrad was close. I was home fairly frequently. Grad school, I lived at home through grad school and now had this job opportunity, and it was all in the same community. I was going to have the same friends and otherwise. And so kind of picked Colorado out of a hat of this is what we could do. And we came out, rented a place on Main Street in Breck for a week, interviewed for jobs, found jobs over here in Eagle County. I started in hospitality and she started in retail, and it kind of the community grew around us as we were here longer and longer.
Did that feel like a natural, like I'm sure in the time it was, full of anxiety and stress, like relocating to a completely, at least it was for me, relocating from the East Coast to the Rocky Mountains and like not having any, living experience in this area. Was that a stressful time for you, or did that move kind of feel like exciting and organic?
Moving to mountain towns, it felt exciting and organic because there's always a new, it's a much different experience when you move into urban communities. But moving into a mountain community, it was awesome.
Yeah.
Because there's always a new, in essence, it's the freshman class who are moving in for the upcoming season. And so you are able to identify people and bond.
Nice.
And we were just up for the adventure. And so lived in a shared housing situation. We were roommates.
Mm-hmm.
And then just dove into what is the mountains.
I love
and
that.
it was all following that passion too, which really helped. I wanted to be out here because of the mountains and because of skiing, particularly for me. And so that first season, I think I got on the hill, it was 65 or 68 days.
Nice.
And then 80 the next season. And that was more than I'd ever skied back east.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So
that really helped.
Living out here, you mean?
Well, yeah. I mean, no, just having the anchor.
Yeah.
Having something that I knew. And so that's what, as you talk about that anxiety, it is. I mean, it's a big move. And for me, what really helped was knowing this is why I'm here, the lifestyle, and the ability to really tap into what is core to who I am, being on the mountain. And that's what I do feel gets missed sometimes as people move. They move to a new location for career, but then they don't find the volleyball team that they were on back in their original team or whatever that is for them. That was that outlet, because it's through those shared connections that you build community.
Yeah. You just kind of hit the nail on the head there, because I say the same things, and, I haven't traveled probably as much as you have, but, in my time I did move to Chicago and live there for a little while, and then back to Baltimore, and now out here to Colorado. And at each one of those stages of moving and like readjusting to new environments, I've always made it a priority to get into a community. Chicago didn't have snowboarding as much. There was the hill up in Wilmot. Yeah. And but that's not really like a drivable community to go be a part of. So like in Chicago, for me, it was joining a rugby team, which I'm so grateful, for those communities out there, because that was a great way for me to like become grounded. And I had played rugby at Frostburg in college too, so I had like the prior skills and an understanding of the culture around the sport. But jumping into that sport as a men's club was just a fantastic way to make friends. And like that's the tip I give to anybody, any of my friends that are relocating, whether it's to Colorado or any place. It's like, you have to find a new community. You have to find like-minded people. You have to pick up a hobby, even if you're not good at it or new to it. I think it's so important, because life for me seems scary to go through without having like a hobby or like something outside of work to ground you. Yeah. So just a little note to all those friends looking to move somewhere.
It's just community doesn't find you.
That's a good way to put it.
Community.
That's a good way to put it.
And too often, it's really easy when the amazing job offer comes in, and you go for it. But that's not it. That's not all that it is, and that's not all life should be.
Wow. So you moved here without a job nailed down?
No, we drove out.
Yeah.
We interviewed, and it was funny because we picked Breck because it is more of a town, and it was more of a town, and so it felt like we had greater opportunities. This was in September, to find positions. Well, the challenge was, with it being more of a town, there were not a lot of year-round positions available at the time,
right?
When we moved, and so there were a lot more over in Eagle County, and so we ended up driving over here every day, interviewing for positions, and by Wednesday. It was a Saturday rental, and by Wednesday we had tentative job offers, and then we started tackling housing.
Nice.
And it was a very different housing. We had multiple apartments we could look at then.
Right.
Mountains are a little bit different now.
Now it's pretty competitive to get housing out here. Yeah.
And there's jobs everywhere.
Is Vail building employee housing out in Eagle County? Because I saw some big construction going on right across from the resort.
There's a couple of different projects happening. So yes, through town, the resort's working on some projects, not through yet, but housing is one of the biggest challenges that exists in mountain communities.
Yeah.
We in essence have negative employment right now. So if you have housing, there is more than one job available for you.
Yeah. Cause I was looking to either work as a ski instructor at Breck or Vail, or at a time looking for a couple positions with SOS. And that was the main prohibitor, for me to get out here is just like the access to housing, or the affordability of it too. Like I know that Vail just increased all of their mountain staff pay hourly rates to $20 an hour, which is great. I hope that allows people to, be able to afford the housing out here a little better. And it's tough work too. I feel like people deserve it. Yeah.
Well, yes, and I mean you're competing. We're a global destination, and with the wholesale transition to remote work, you're competing for housing with people who earn
more
metro area salaries in Bay Area, Manhattan, or otherwise. And so what Vail Resorts and so many other organizations have done is incredible, and it really supports the employees. The housing crunch is just massive, and you can't overcome it because of the competition that you're having without, as you say, building really strategic workforce housing initiatives, because it has to be, you can't compete on the open market, because the open market for us is anywhere and around the world who wants to call this gorgeous place home. And it's the same thing across all mountain communities.
Yeah. A lot of people have their eyes on it.
Yes.
Do you have any suggestions for, any of the listeners who are looking to relocate to these mountain towns? Let's just say specifically, Summit County, Breck, Vail, Beaver Creek. Do you have any suggestions for people that are looking for housing, maybe where, good spots are to find it?
Well, I mean, you got to take the chance and get there, because it's really hard to find things remotely. There's just such limited availability. But just talking to as many people as possible, there are some situations of shared rooms or otherwise. And so it's, if you're able to secure employment or secure connections and then start working those networks all the time, but the limited nature of what's being posted, I mean, there's just less and less that's publicly posted because it's rented before it goes on the market. And so it's critically important, if you want to move into mountain communities, to just leverage your network,
make some
and
friends,
your friends as much as you can, to see if you can secure something. There is a movement that's growing among people who live in these communities to really support people who are working in them. And it's not massively taking hold, but there is a movement. So people are freeing up bedrooms in unoccupied homes and otherwise to support people working in the county, but those are not going to be publicly posted. It's only if you're connected
through connections.
People.
Yeah. Because I mean, if the mountain doesn't have employees, then kind of everything crumbles, doesn't it?
You ain't kidding. That's exactly it. If
it seems like
I mean, if we're in a high service community, and
I mean, I see the lift lines. I see the lift lines. If they don't have enough people to run a lift, then you can't run it, and that backs up everything else. All right, let's refocus a little bit back to, so you got the job as a front desk attendant,
front desk agent
in Beaver Creek.
Yep.
And then now, from my research I did, you started a nonprofit within that specific hotel. Is that?
Started a volunteer program. So I was at the hotel for over 2 years, but then I actually stayed working with them for another 10 years in a variety of part-time positions. I mean, I just love the space and love the connection to people particularly. But so had started, and actually this is a good thing for your listeners as you talk about it. So I was in front desk. It was not what I'd gone to grad school for. My grad degree was in nonprofit management. Loved being where I was, and really had a challenge in connecting to community. I mean, this is what I wanted to do. And so I hadn't tapped in well, and was struggling, particularly in the first year, of whether I stay or go. And so a year into it, I proposed to my boss a program, and then he directed me to human resources, and they gave me approval for it. So to create a volunteer connection between employees of the hospitality group into the community. And this was all around strategic skill-based volunteering. So bringing our accountants in to support with budget development, budget creation, budget analysis within nonprofit organizations, to bring HR team members to talk about personnel policies and benefit creation and how to really support and train teams to engage them. So how to transition the volunteering from just the sure to like come out for a day, but really to make strategic investments in the organization. That's what led to me being connected to the community, but it was really cool. I mean, I had the idea, I drafted it up when I was at a training in Breckenridge. I can still remember I was sitting there typing away and pitched it to my supervisor, and he said, yeah, go ahead. You can do this as a part of your job.
That's awesome.
I'm all about keeping you here, and I want to figure it out. And so don't ever hesitate, no matter what position you're in, to bring ideas and connections that you have moving forward, because very often, like this was a great win for my manager, the general manager of the hotel. He was stoked because we had a good working relationship and we stayed working together. He was, and he wanted to see me continue to grow and develop. And then also for the resort, company had increased their connection to the community.
I think that's a great example of, I think a lot of times, and me too, when I say this, it's like you try to look for opportunities outside of the employment that you have. Like maybe what you're doing isn't exactly in line with your passions, but it seems like in this case, I'm sure working the front desk wasn't your passion, but you were able to, out of creativity, build this brand new like grassroots nonprofit right out of the employment that you already had. And that takes a lot of initiative and creativity and just drive, and that I'm sure comes directly from your passion from the snow sports. So that's impressive to say the least that you were able to build that. How long were you working with the hotel before you transitioned into SOS? And is that nonprofit with the hotel still active?
No, I mean, so it was a volunteer program.
Sorry,
so not a set up organization,
okay.
But it was a volunteer program. They still do volunteering through the HR team. So yes, it's still a part of their DNA. And it's been cool to see them continue to engage. I mean, they're a very community dedicated organization that grew. And for me, so I was with the hotel 2.5 years, and then it was through the volunteering though that I got connected to SOS, and a position came up for a contract position. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a 6-month contract position. And I knew at the time that we were going to be leaving the Valley for my wife to go to massage school in the following spring. So actually the timing worked out well.
Awesome.
So I jumped on a 6-month position. We were going down to Denver. And then as my 6 month wrapped up of this contract position, the current development director had gone out on maternity leave and then decided not to return to the position. And so it opened up a full-time position, and I got
right in there.
The founder to be in there, and to work remotely for 2 to 3 days a week, and then I was up here 2 to 3 days a week.
And that's not something you had necessarily planned out on happening, but just kind of opportunities organically opened up, and took the day by day and just did your best each day, and eventually that presented itself to you when you were ready for it, or when it was ready for you, I guess.
I actually found a job in Denver and started down there, and then this job opened up, and I said, this makes sense, but it's not for me. Mm-hmm. And I'm really glad I did, because had I stayed down in Denver, I know we wouldn't be living up here. I know my kids who are 10 and 11 wouldn't be at school up here and being able to walk to school and walk to all their after-school activities. I mean, we really do have an incredible life that happened because of that gut feeling that I followed, and it was the same thing that happened when we were in Pittsburg. I don't look back as to at this point. Once I got connected in the community and really hit my stride, I don't look back on that at Carnegie Mellon and say, I wonder what would have happened had I continued there.
It'd be a whole different life.
But
it's great that like your dedication to volunteering and, supporting the communities provided you this avenue that, you didn't even know was going to happen. Realistically, you moved out here blind. You didn't have a job. But through just your day-to-day persistence to your own passion, it's like this whole world opened up to you that would not have, you wouldn't be here if it wasn't for your love for snowboarding. And then you're also like philanthropic work to give back to the communities. So it sounds like you really earned, this life you have out here.
Well, and what really connected for me, because I certainly went through, I mean, it some challenges. I was, I've gotten burned out. I've been overwhelmed at various points in my career,
Mm-hmm.
um, and part of the challenge that I had, and I think this goes a lot to everybody who we're speaking to, is I was so tied to what the organization was doing or to volunteering or otherwise. And it wasn't until I stepped into the executive director role and I really did a lot of soul searching as to whether or not to apply for the position, because it was a national search and it was competitive to pursue. And through that work, in the year that followed me stepping into executive director, I recognize that what I really enjoy are building relationships and developing people. And I have the opportunity to do that here more so than at any other experience that I've found to date. And so I really love building relationships so that 1+1 = 3 or more.
Mm-hmm.
And I really cherish the opportunity to develop people to achieve their full potential. And that's kids in SOS, but that's also our staff team. I mean, being able to have team members move on to new positions within the organization has been the coolest thing. We've had a number of different changes and transitions. Awesome. And then also being able to have team members, move on to the next stages in their career.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to lose coworkers who you could work with the rest of your life, but on the other hand, I cherish the opportunity that I have to really support them.
And that's great. I've seen your activity on LinkedIn and the internship opportunities that SOS has opened up for their, graduating students out of the mentorship program. If there's another tier after that before they get to the mentorship, I apologize for misspeaking.
No, you're good.
I know, like, I've seen you guys have placed, students in Evo and at Oberalp and at Function. I think I saw as well.
Function previously, Elevate Outdoors, Smartwool, Technica, Armada, US Ski and Snowboard, Christie Sports,
awesome.
Vail Resorts Retail, Park City. Yeah.
That's awesome. And these are opportunities that, like, for me, trying to apply to positions in these companies, I understand the difficulty in getting your foot in the door sometimes. So it's great, just a great opportunity all around that you guys have from like the cradle to employment, basically, provided a path for, students and youth to get into this industry and to make it all the way through to start their career. When otherwise, that would be I'm sure it is still a difficult path, but it's nice to lay the stepping stones to have like this workflow, come into the industry.
It's amazing. And particularly, so this career development program, we expanded it to Denver, Vail, and Park City this year. We'll be growing it to 6 locations next year. And it is it's the coolest thing we've ever worked on. To be able to, because it starts with 2 weeks of classroom experience. So how to interview, how to present yourself on social media, what to wear on the first day. I mean, a lot of the skills that kids are not picking up at school anymore, or at home, due to the challenges that so many parents are facing just to provide a roof and food. They're not connecting on some of these opportunities, and so our ability to provide a little bit of support so that the kids who are in SOS can really bring their full talents out and they can walk in confident, and it's amazing what happens. We have kids who are being offered positions afterwards. Evo has continued employment. Vail Resorts has continued employment. US Ski and Snowboard has continued employment for the interns that have been placed there.
Congratulations on setting that up. I mean, if your goal and your dream is to make these relationships and better people, like you are 1000% making a huge impact on kids, at turning into young adults, so that, it's like you guys are taking the responsibility. It's not pushing the blame on like schools or families or, wherever people like to send the responsibility out. Instead, you guys are just kind of owning it and really taking that next step, as you have in the past, in building these programs for, the youth and the communities all around the country. wherever you guys have the SOS operations, right?
Yeah, well, and that's exactly it. Where we have significant opportunities and we have significant connections, and how can we leverage that to provide resources for our kids involved in SOS to maximize the talent that they have. So much and such a significant limitation for them is in that connection to resources. And if we can be a bridge to increase our social capital, they have the talent, they have the experience, they have the dedication and drive that is off the charts.
On that note, let's take a quick pause, and we're back.
Yeah.
So I realize that we're 30 minutes into this podcast and really haven't explained the full scope of what SOS does. So I think that'd be a great time to do it now. Can you give a little information, just, baseline for people that aren't familiar with SOS, what you guys are all about?
Yeah, SOS Outreach is a youth development organization that provides a structured curriculum that has a goal of creating long-term impact. We are engaging 3,200 youth across 15 locations, so from Seattle to Detroit. Primary centers of our program delivery are in the Mountain West, and so in Colorado, Utah, and Lake Tahoe region, Nevada and California. For our outreach. And what we provide is a 4th grade through 12th grade curriculum that incorporates outdoors, predominantly skiing and snowboarding. Then as kids develop into year 2 and beyond, it really is layering mentoring, service learning, and leadership development. So we're really focused on providing the connection through the outdoors and then building on that connection to promote very significant outcomes and success for the kids involved in our programs.
It's beautiful. And I can speak firsthand on the benefit. I was never in SOS when I was growing up, but I did spend years from age 11 to age 18 in Boy Scouts, which is, a different realm of youth programming, but still focused on the outdoors and skill development. And my years in Scouts definitely shaped my passion for the outdoors and created a much more capable young man, in myself, and showed me skills and leadership opportunities and just opportunities that I wouldn't have had outside of that, and friends and community. And so that experience being so impactful for me is why I appreciate, what you guys are doing with SOS, because I see similar paths being created, and kind of even better because it's, around skiing and snowboarding, which, I would have loved to have more access to that when I was younger. So it's great that the kids are.
Well, and it really comes back to, as you talk about Scouts, and this is what is the secret sauce of SOS Outreach, is that we engage a shared experience, and that's what builds strong relationships. And so particularly the kids who we're recruiting, so we do this all in partnership with youth agencies and schools. So we're not recruiting kids directly, but we work with teachers or counselors who know the kids because they're working with them all day, every day, and they're able to refer the kids. But a lot of the kids who are engaged in SOS are experiencing different forms of social isolation. So either that's bullying, challenges at home. But it all comes into that social isolation. And what is so powerful is when kids and adults complete an activity together, it builds a bond that extends beyond the activity. And really, skiing and snowboarding or any of the outdoor, hiking, climbing, the cool thing about it is you can do it for the rest of your life. And it's not, just on Sunday when there's a team to play against, but you can really participate in these activities and you can get to really deep conversations. I mean, the chairlift chats, the trail chats about what happens. I mean, so many kids in SOS have not been asked what they like to do beyond high school outside of the time with their mentor on the chairlift. And you just, to reinforce the impact of that question is so powerful to get kids thinking about and really targeting towards, this is what I like to do. This is the trade school or armed services or college or career that I want to go into.
With SOS, what does intentionality mean to you guys, and how has How have your programs been structured, to have more of an intentional benefit for the kids?
Yeah, absolutely. This is what's difficult to explain fully, because in essence, SOS operates a lot more like a school. I mean, we're starting in 4th grade, taking kids through 12th grade, and it's a curriculum that builds on each other every year. This is not just an after-school program or a go up and do a ski trip. We have targeted skills that we're delivering at each year of our program, life skills, that are focused on supporting our youth to thrive. And these range from communication to decision making. But we're really focused, and then we are on that curriculum, on those goals, on those skills. And then how do we deliver it the most effectively possible, whether that's through workshops, on the mountain, activities that happen outside of, take-home activities, service projects, but how do we really draw this out so that we can really support our kids in developing the life skills that they need to thrive in today's world?
Yeah, it's important. Can you give the path from 4th to 12th and break down the different sections of the program
absolutely.
For those that aren't familiar?
So 4th grade, we start with a group of 25 kids, and they come up in what's called our Learn to Ride section of our experience. And this is a 5-day program that takes place usually 5 subsequent Saturdays or Sundays. But again, we do this in partnership with a school or youth agency. So it would be a 4th grade class that comes up, or a group of 4th graders from a class, but all recruited from the teacher who identifies kids who can really benefit from this community. They're then receiving character development curriculum. So each day is focused on one of the SOS core values: courage, discipline, integrity, wisdom, compassion, and then graduation's humility. So there's a 6th one added in there. Every day is anchored in that core value. And then we're building on the core value with instruction. So their beginner ski and snowboard instruction, all of the equipment that they need, and then also positive adults. And that's through the instructors and volunteers who are really there to support the kids and to build this community. For a lot of kids in our year-round program, I mean, this may be the first group that they've spoken in front of, because each kid is sharing their personal definition of that core value when the program starts. After graduation from the first year, they're then eligible to continue in our 5th through 9th grade program, which is our mentor experience. And it really is targeted in those 5th to 9th grade years to address some of the most significant challenges that kids face, that transition from adolescence into teenage through middle school years. I mean, these are really challenging years to develop yourself, who you are within a group. Schools are changing, groups are changing, but how can you rely on, and how can you have this SOS community that's there to support you through those changes? And in that mentoring program, this is a group-based experience, 4 kids, 1 adult mentor. And there, it's a successive program where each year incorporates service to the community and then growing leadership development. Some of the coolest things is when kids get into year 3 of the mentor program, year 4 overall, they're identifying a community issue, and that could be anything from dogs running wild to trash in the local park to human trafficking in their community. And the important thing is how they create a way to address that issue. And so we just facilitate the dialogue, but we've had kids do awareness campaigns around human trafficking. What are signs? And then they're going around to shops in South Lake Tahoe and hanging posters and talking to the shop owners so that they can get support for people who are in those situations. But it really is an important thing for our kids to see themselves as agents of change and not just receiving services. And then they continue into years 5 and 6 of the program are really focused on personal leadership development. So goal setting, strategic goal setting, communication and advocacy, so that they are finding their voice, using their voice, and then also identifying where they'd like to be moving forward.
And part of the mentor program, right, is that you are a mentee. I think that's the right word for it. And then you, after 2 years, you become a mentor.
Well, no, so after 9th grade, then our junior mentor program kicks in. Okay. And this is where kids in 10th through 12th grade have the opportunity to put all of the skills that they've developed through the previous 6 years into action. So it's adult mentor, junior mentor, 10th through 12th grader, plus 4 kids who are then delivering the curriculum.
Cool.
So they really step into a co-leadership position with the mentor to deliver the curriculum to this group of 4 kids, increases our ratio, increases the opportunity of kids to step into a leadership position, and also creates this whole generational cycle. Kids giving back to the next generation coming up behind them.
Yeah, that's such a well-rounded program that you guys have created here. And, I've got to see firsthand, I worked with SOS as your program coordinator, director in Chicago during the winter of 2019 and 2020.
Yeah.
And that was my first, introduction to SOS and experience working with the middle school and the Boys and Girls Club down there. I think it was about 65 students that I, helped go through the 5-day Learn to Ride program, which was a great experience. I had a really good time just kind of like taking over that program and working with those students and seeing the enjoyment. And, Chicago, I think, is a pretty unique landscape for this type of program because these students that, in big cities like that have never seen mountains realistically, or really, I think a lot of them haven't ventured much out of the city itself, and Wilmot is an hour and a half, 2 hours north of Chicago. So, in my head, when we were first planning all the busing and talking with the teachers and getting that all coordinated, I was like, wow, this is a lot for you guys to have to drive, an hour and a half. I'm sure the kids are like going to get sleepy and tired and maybe not want to do it. But to my surprise and enjoyment, like they loved the opportunity to drive that hour and a half outside of the city and just get out of that environment for, the afternoon, and the joy on their faces that I love to see them learning these ski and snowboard. And, those first 5 days, most of the kids were just on the bunny hill working with the instructors and learning. But it's just like, even though everyone's like falling and, taking some hard tumbles, it's still all smiles and all fun and all just like, wow, that was an incredible experience, to go through, speaking as like the student. And I mean, all around, it was all, the teachers loved it. The students loved it. The instructors had a really great experience with it. And it's just kind of a beautiful thing that you guys are implementing, in these areas that outside of Colorado don't have access to these mountains. I also think that snowboarding specifically is such a hard thing to learn. I grew up learning to snowboard. I didn't ski. So just speaking specifically to the discipline of snowboarding, it's such a hard thing to get down, and then an even harder thing to stick with financially and personally. Like, it takes a lot of discipline to learn. And I think that for me, a lot of the passion in snowboarding has come from my self, satisfaction that I put the time in. I stuck with it, and now I get to enjoy the fruits of, all this hard work over the past years that puts me on the side of, Breckenridge at 10,000 feet. And that's a place that I would have never been without this sport, like physically a place I would have never been without this sport. And you guys opening that up and allowing more students to experience just like the vast beauty of the mountains out here, or, the mountains where they're from, is such like a beautiful gift that you guys are opening up to the communities. I think that's something that really shapes a student, because if you've never accomplished something significantly hard, then you don't know what it's like to accomplish something significantly hard. But like on the other side of that accomplishment is like it's a lesson to yourself that other things can be accomplished. And like for me personally, through doing hard things, I learn how to do hard things. And like I learn how I personally learn. That was a weird sentence, but
well, but it goes to your question about intentionality previously, because there is true intentionality from our first year program all the way up through. The ability to not only learn how to be okay, but learn how to competently get down the hill and then to master the sport. And for a lot of our kids, particularly urban area participants, I mean, they don't even know, many of them do not even know that this exists as a thing. Mm-hmm. Our mountain kids certainly see it. Their parents may or may not work in the industry, but they're more aware of the mountains and being up here, but they're often excluded from them. And so to bring in and develop that confidence, you're exactly right, because then that homework assignment or the project becomes, oh, I can do this because I took this on. The other side of it that comes into the intentionality is really around that whole focus of changing perspective. Particularly when you talk about coming out of Chicago, having kids who have never left the city before or never gone west to Denver to get up into the mountains, to change that perspective has a huge impact. And it cannot be understated in what it means to get kids who are facing challenges out of the environment that they are in, and to show them that this environment is equally for them as it is for anyone else. And you could look at whatever situation you're in or opportunities differently.
Yeah. And it's so therapeutic too, in multiple, in like physical ways and mental ways, just to get out of the city. And like, that's something that being in Scouts growing up, I think I may have took for granted the opportunities to go out, but now like growing up and using nature as an escape from like the stresses of work or the stresses of, relationships or whatever, you deal with in your day to day, Monday through Friday life, like being able to escape, whether you're, in Pennsylvania, taking a hike in the Appalachians or out here in the Rockies. Nature is such like a brain, like wash, not brainwash, but like a wash for your brain. Cleanse. That's a better word for it. Yeah.
It's a cleansing. It's a reset. It really is. I mean, we've had kids in our programs who had never seen stars before. And so you wrap that into your head of, wow, just the power of different perspective.
Yeah.
And to be able to play a small part in expanding the horizons. Because again, it all comes back to our kids, everybody. I mean, the talent is unbelievable. And the biggest thing, my drive is born out of frustration that talent's unbelievable and it is not connected to opportunities unless you're intentionally creating them. And so I wish that, all of our kids in SOS and otherwise really had the ability to maximize the talent that they have.
What opportunities are there? Because a lot of my listeners are in the Maryland, Pennsylvania, Virginia area, and out here in Colorado as well. Yeah. What opportunities are there for people in my community to volunteer and support your organization? How can we help?
Well, I mean, anybody in one of our regions, let us know. So our organization specifically, I mean, if you're in one of our regions, we have volunteer opportunities from season-long, year-long mentoring to one-day experiences, whether in an office, sorting this gear behind us, or out on snow with our participants or a service project. Advocacy is certainly a big one, like commenting, sharing, fundraising for us to increase the reach of our programs is a significant one. The other side, I mean, particularly if you're not in one of our regions, and this goes to the impact potential, is how can you get involved with organizations that are in your community? There are a number of groups who do mock volunteer day or mock interview days. There are other groups that do resume reviews and others. So where are there chances for you to plug in, host an intern, mentor someone professionally, take someone out to coffee, but connect into groups and just say, I'm really interested in increasing kids' social capital, and I want to be a resource for them. I mean, just to have someone who is a professional connected to kids who have unbelievable talent, writing a letter of reference on behalf of them and in support of them, it is unbelievable the doors that opens. And so the biggest thing I'd say, particularly if you're not in one of SOS's regions or if SOS is not for you, just what are the groups that you can connect to? And how do you bring it beyond just that day volunteering that is traditionally offered, but really bring your skills and talents to the organization and to the kids involved in it?
Because I think what this youth programming does a lot too that I believe we touched on before, but it's just like breaking kids out of the lack of activity on the weekends, let's say, or the lack of activity after school, and opening up these avenues for activity, or like you said, like taking people out to lunch, or just connecting and developing positive relationships more, is it's free.
Yeah.
If you take somebody out to lunch, it's like not like physically free, but like doing activities and going hiking and just like building relationships is an activity that doesn't take much from you, but is extremely rewarding, I think, to both parties in different ways. So I think that's great that you highlight that, because even if SOS isn't there, or even if you're not directly aware of nonprofits or volunteer opportunities, the same as you did working at your job in Beaver Creek, like there's always the opportunity to create something.
There's always the opportunity to create something, and it goes to, Mason, as you shared, right before this, you were connecting with someone who was family friends of yours. How can you help others have that level of connection? Here you're not in this community, and yet you had somebody to go get coffee with, and who knows where that ends up.
Yeah.
But those are the connections that come naturally to a lot of families, and a lot of kids benefit from that, and they are very privileged to have that access. And then there's a whole lot of kids who have equal or greater talent who do not have those connections.
I think that building relationships like that personally is something that has gotten me to where I am.
Exactly.
Like fully, even
Yeah.
from college and before that, it's like the conversations that I've had, and the seemingly insignificant interactions one day have led to like great friendships or mutually beneficial relationships down the line. And I know that building positive relationships is a big staple of SOS, and I think that is such maybe the number one thing that has propelled me, to be able to move here for one, to be able to move to Chicago for the other, to even be able to do this podcast. Like the string of guests that I've had from season 1 to season 2, it's all people that I've met along the way.
Correct.
It's all people that I've supported and have supported me, and are willing to give an hour of their time to give information about their upbringing and their path to get to where they are. And it's a privilege that I have to be able to provide these conversations to people, that want to tune into the podcast, and hopefully will motivate others to have more conversations like this, or put a higher importance on that relationship building, and that like we're all a community, we're all in this thing together, we're all going through the same struggles, same failures, same successes at some point along the way. So that is great advice.
Yeah.
Great advice. Could you mention, I think you said it at the beginning, but could you mention again the regions that you guys do have operations in?
Absolutely. 15 locations. So Detroit, Minneapolis, Chicago, and Chicago/Kenosha. We're operating in both out of that center. And then Colorado is Denver, Eagle County, Breckenridge, or Vale and Beaver Creek, Summit County, Breckenridge, Keystone, Copper, A Basin, that we're engaging kids, and then Steamboat, Leadville, and Durango. And then we're in the Summit County, Utah, which is Park City, Deer Valley. Cool. So Park City is a town. And then North Lake Tahoe, South Lake Tahoe, and Yakima, Portland, and Seattle.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Are there any plans to extend to like the Maryland area now that Vale's
not at this point.
Okay.
Not at this point. We're really focused. So 6 of our locations have that mentoring program.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to grow that to 9 this next year.
Cool.
My goal is to get us to all 15 of our locations being at mentoring. And then if we add, we'll experience from there.
Any other big plans for the future besides growing that mentor
growing
program?
the mentoring program and growing our career development program.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you guys feel like you have some restructuring to do based on the issues from the pandemic? Are you guys experiencing like a rebuild phase from
not a rebuild. I mean, we ran all the way through. We did not. Our kids needed it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
so we said no. We are going to figure out how to do this. We said yes. And so we have restructured our team. We're greater geographic diversity in where people are located, but No.
Cool.
Yeah.
Would you like to give the listeners some information about where they could find opportunities for SOS, whether it be websites or social media?
First off, Mason, thank you for the time today. Thanks for the opportunity to connect. Know that for you, any of your listeners, I absolutely am open to any additional conversations. I very much believe that any lessons I've learned shouldn't, any of the mistakes shouldn't be replicated. So I'll certainly share and am available. But it's sosoutreach.org is website, and then social handles SOS Outreach to find us and get engaged with the organization. You can sign up for our newsletter on the website, and that gets you even more actively engaged.
Awesome. And then if somebody wanted to reach out, is the website the best place to do that, or like a direct message?
Me personally, I'm Seth, SETH at sosoutreach.org. And then the organization is SOS at sosoutreach.org.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you everyone for tuning into this episode of the Mason J Show. Seth, a huge thank you for taking the time to have this conversation. I've been looking forward to this greatly. So it's awesome to be able to finally sit down with you and, learn about your upbringing and how you got to be the executive director of this amazing nonprofit. So thank you so much.
Thanks,
bless you guys. We'll catch you on the next episode.
Yeah.
Awesome.